Good morning. I'll show you some geese flying, cloud cover. Might get rained on. We'll see. I don't think it'll be rain. If anything, it'll be a sprinkle or two. So I'm going to chance it. I'm going to go boldly. That's what we're going to talk about today. Acts chapter 14, bold grace. And who better to have these words applied to him than Paul? He is bold. That is one of his characteristics. And it was really bold of God to give him the full benefits and blessings of grace, because he can then go extend it to others and grace in the definition used within the Bible means unmerited favor, undeserved favor, and forgiveness. And that often is, it said, represented by the salvation and bestowal of blessings. I'm trying to remember the exact Oxford definition words. So what better person to go and preach this good news than our friend Paul? Paul is the beneficiary of grace, of bold grace. And so people pay attention. As a matter of fact, so this story starts us off. He's preaching and people are believing and they're excited. And then he decides to perform a miracle. He sees a man that has lame feet, who's never been able to walk. And he says, "Get up and walk." And he gets up and walks. And everybody is like, "What?" They're amazed. But he is in Greece or Rome, and the believers there are still like, they see this and they're like, "Oh, you must be a god." And so they call Barnabas and Paul Zeus and Hermes. They're like, "Oh, you must be the manifestation of Zeus and Hermes." And they run and get things to sacrifice and offer to them. And Paul's going, no, we're just human. They can't, in their belief system and in their paradigm, a miracle means God. And they're not wrong. That's how Paul was able to perform this miracle. But it's not because he is a God, but he was calling on God in Jesus' name to demonstrate the truth and back up what he was saying, but that they were not gods. And these people just couldn't get it. And so some Jews that were in the vicinity and not believers see what's happening, and they capitalize on the confusion. And they're like, and they get them on their side. And then they get them to turn on Paul and Barnabas, and they actually stone Paul to the point and drag him out of the city to the point that he's left for dead. But then the believers surround him, and he gets up and he's okay. I'm imagining he's pretty bruised and beaten and not feeling great, but that's where they land the plane. They don't go into those details. The Bible doesn't go into those details in this story, but we can fill in the gaps. But I'm like, I just love that the story started, it was bookended with grace and Paul's living example of it, and that God wouldn't just leave him lying there dead and stoned after performing a miracle, that he would also be the beneficiary of a miracle and of grace after pouring his heart out and his personhood, like who God designed him to be. And you've got to, I don't know, I just think about these things pretty deeply. Surprise, surprise. But I'm like, God, he knew way before, like, that this character Saul was going to be born, and his boldness and his personality, and probably had already handpicked him, knowing that he was going to stone Stephen, one of his beloved original people of the church. Like, he knew all of this and used it, but he had a bigger plan. He had a bigger plan. And I think we're going to see more of this. I kind of peeked ahead at the chapters, that there's a kind of a theme there, that he has bigger plans than our human experiences. We are just a part of the story, but hey, we've got to live these lives. These human experiences are a big deal to us and how we see the world. And God has grace for us. He knows we are fully human and fully limited in our ability to see and perceive. He doesn't expect us to be gods. That is why, him partnering with us makes such a difference. And that we can then also, when we really, really understand the message of grace, and that we are receivers of it, now, because we have free will, we have to open up our hands and receive it, or our minds, our hearts. We have to open ourselves to receiving it. It's not just an automatic. We were given brains and critical thinking and minds and hearts that all work together, and we block it. And a lot of people want to go around going, but, just like these people that he was preaching to, like they could not see the forest for the trees. And simultaneously, on one hand, in the moment, they were willing to treat them like gods and sacrifice to them. And then the next minute, they're convinced to stone Paul, the messenger. Like, they wanted to exalt him to a god, and then they wanted to, stone him. This is what humans do. This is how quickly we can turn on a dime and be convinced and manipulated. And it's our own minds. If we are not connected to the truth of grace boldly, like a bold connection, then we are likely to just miss it. And then do all kinds of crazy things. And treat each other, like Paul did before he got the message. That we are out hurting each other and judging and all the things that we humans want to do when we're fully in our human survival modes. Grace, grace, grace. And the boldness of Paul and who Paul was. So it made me even think of, who are you? Who am I? What are some of your essential characteristics? And can they be put to use to give people a message in your unique way of God's grace? It's a good question to think about. I think God made me curious, endlessly curious, and a learner and an encourager. I want to share. Oh, guess what I learned? And here I am. That's why I can spend hours a day doing this, because it's, I think, who God made me to be. And now that I'm partnering with him and doing it under his banner of grace, it's not hard. I'm not fighting against myself, and I'm working with myself, and then bringing God into the equation, and watch him see what he can do with that. I'm excited. And then I'm not even personally tied to it. People might stone me too, metaphorically. And I know that it won't be about me. Paul didn't take it personally. He dusted himself off and then got back to work. Went back with his brothers and went on to the next town. That's all he can do. They would dust their feet off as a symbol of, okay, we're moving on. We did what we could do. Maybe we've planted some seeds. We're not responsible for other people's beliefs or their lives. All we can do is be messengers. And our message is only trustworthy or valid if we're walking the walk, if we're actually role models. And that's exactly what Paul and Barnabas were doing, and what Paul and Silas will be doing. They had to be living proof and role models. They're not just giving a message, they're living the message. And grace and love are the message. And that, as humans, is hard to give to each other because we are such knuckleheads sometimes. And we block it. And how do you be graceful and loving with people that, on the surface of it, seem as if they're going against you? That's hard. That is hard. We'll see. I'm sure I'll get tested with it soon. I've been lucky so far. God's giving me a little safe cocoon to start to turn into a butterfly, maybe. All right, my friends. Rise and shine wherever you are. And together, as we wake up and elevate our consciousness, our hearts, and our capacity to love, we can also extend grace in the special ways that we are each individually designed. All right, have a great day. Bye.